They just have such a pathetic reputation that at this point, the only thing Harry really can do is crawl back on his hands and knees like the prodigal son and just hope his dad will take him in. You know, I mean, he's literally been over there eating husks with the pigs. And, you know, maybe he's come to himself. Maybe he's come to his senses. Maybe he's already deciding what speeches he's going to make. And he can only hope that his father will be like the dad in the story, who will see his son coming from a far way off and already begin to prepare the fatted calf. But I don't know if that'll be the case. All I know is he better not bring one of the pigs back with him, because I can tell you right now, no one's opening their arms to Meghan.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise. We have so many things to talk about, and I'm really struggling which story to talk about first because I'm just into all of them. But one of the things I saw this week that immediately I was like, no, you're not going to do that and pull the wool over our eyes. Don't pee on our leg and tell us it's raining, okay? That situation needs to be shut down. And the fact that people have let this go on for so long shocks and appalls me. But you know the person who we really need to have in our sights today? Pedro Pascal. Okay, dude, you have been riding this weird little quirky personality you have with your little mustache and your glasses and pretending that you're God's awkward gift to us all, okay? But you know what? You're a weirdo. And I've known it these many years. And finally, people are catching up, okay? Up until now, I feel like the view towards him was that he was just sort of like this cute, sort of cuddly teddy bear, but also kind of good looking in a sort of awkward way. And that he was just so endearing because he had this like overwhelming anxiety, you know? Pan back to his SNL performance when he was just cold, awkward, and weird, and it all came down to the fact that even though he'd practiced like 50 times with Sabrina Carpenter, when it came down to it, the performance so terrified him because he wasn't used to the singing and the dancing element of performance that he just couldn't manage it. And that when she was clearly trying to create some chemistry with him on stage and, you know, he couldn't manage it, it was all because he felt so dang awkward. You know, the social anxiety that just rules and reigns and just controls his every movement had ruined the performance, unfortunately. You know, people are like, oh, poor Pedro. You know, poor Pedro Pascal. Okay, but you know, Pedro Pascal seems to have reined in this social anxiety to create a new kind of dynamic for himself, all right? He might be an incredibly awkward person who feels tremendous fear in the presence of others, which feels like he just has chosen the wrong profession as an actor. But he's just super nervous, you guys, and social situations kind of scare him, right? So he has decided to thwart this enemy from within by pawing and mawing all over the pretty female co-stars, you know? I mean, when you feel so bad inside, the only thing you can do is just grab a female, you know? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just missed his mama's breast. I don't know. But somehow the closeness of a woman seems to allay his fears, frustrations, and anxieties. And this has been well documented. People for a long time have thought he was a little too handsy. To my knowledge, he's not in a relationship, you know, and I kind of always thought maybe he was gay. I don't know. Maybe he's not. But he's not with anybody. So I guess that's why he feels like he's free to just touch anyone whenever and however, because there's no one at home waiting to slap him across the face when he walks over the threshold, right? So he just does whatever. But the thing is, the people that he's with are in relationships. His co-stars are married. And there's this old video of him with William Dafoe. They're at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They're taking a picture by the star. And then he uses that opportunity to turn around and just for no apparent reason put his hands on William Dafoe's wife. I mean, it's almost like he's like, I finally got through that. You guys were so scared getting my picture taken by the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I need to go touch a woman, you know, so that I can regain some of my power, you know. So that was weird. And there's been instances like that of him just kind of being oddly handsy with other people's wives. Okay. But then recently, and I'd say within the last 24 hours, I just keep seeing this come up. He and his co-star, Vanessa Kirby, have a very weird relationship. Now, Pedro may not be in a relationship, okay? But Vanessa is. And Vanessa seems to be 110% in on this emotional support animal thing. I mean, she read the job application and she was like, sign me up, okay? She can't wait to be his emotional support animal. And I am telling you this much right now. The weirdness of this relationship, if I was her husband, I would be like, I just need you to know that you will be being served with the divorce papers. Nobody touches somebody like this, and it's all just like, because we're like, we just had such a good time filming together. You guys were just such good friends, you know? And he just needed me to rub his neck like this. This is how I make him feel better. You know, he's nervous right now. Interviews are really hard. They're really, really hard. I mean, nobody expects to have to do an interview when you're an actor, you know, and that press tour is just, I mean, it's just running the gauntlet, you know, it's just really hard for him. So he needs this neck massage right now. Right now. Have you ever touched anybody like that you weren't like in an intimate relationship with? No? No, I have never. And you have never, okay? And if you did, you knew you were walking on some dicey territory, crossing and dancing on that line. Okay, so she's over there massaging his neck and whatnot. And they're just all up in each other's space and everything. But for me, if I were her husband, the thing that would have just really put me over the edge, the thing that would have really frustrated me and thought, no, you've crossed the line here, is this little interaction. Look at this. Here they are talking, and then she reaches over, and they have this weird little intimate hand thing, you know? She puts her hand on his, they slap hands, and then interlock the fingers. There's such a dynamic energy here. The chemistry here, the understanding without words that is playing here, her I'm giving you the support without you having to ask for it, whole vibe is messed up. Okay, and Pedro has been getting everybody on his back low these many years for his weirdo behavior. And you know what? There's plenty of judgment to go around on that score. But also Vanessa. Do you want to stay happily married? I think she's pregnant now. Because we also are looking at some weirdness here. Is this Pedro's baby? Why are your hands all over her pregnant belly, I ask you? You know, so he's acting crazy, but she is a willing participant. And see, you know what I'm really tired of? I am tired in Hollywood of people acting like their relationships, their personal relationships, have no bearing when they're on a press tour. Oh, I'm married? Oh, I'll get back to that when I'm off this press tour. Because right now, I need to kiss my co-star who I just really bonded with, you know. They become like family, really more than family. They're like, you just get this thing going when you're like on a set with somebody and you spend hours and hours and you're just, you know, creatively melded together. And it's just, you know, the only way I can express that is by being very overly physical sexually with this person. You wouldn't understand it because you're not an artist. You know, you don't understand the craft. But when you understand the craft and you are an artist and you have been with this person, you know, for weeks and months, I mean, marriage aside, I need to be rubbing Pascal's neck and also holding his hand. So I don't know what you want me to do about it. I mean, we saw this with Scarlett Johansson, who decided to make out with her co-star. And everyone came for me and was like, well, you know that guy's gay. Couldn't give a damn. Because she's not, all right? She's married. So I need to know why suddenly it's okay for her to kiss this guy because, I don't know, he's interested in other men. What? Who cares? If she'd gone up and kissed a female co-star, would you tell me, well, but that girl's straight? Well, they're not acting like they should right now. And Scarlett Johansson, you're not acting like you should right now. You're kissing another man and you're married. I mean, enough with but he's gay. Who cares? Who cares? Scarlett Johansson's married. Why is she kissing another man? That's my question. It's as simple as that. And in this instance, hey, Pedro, I don't know what your relationship status is with anyone. You got a situation, you got a relationship, I don't know. But what I do know right now is Vanessa is with someone, okay? So I don't know why she's clinging to you and being your support animal and whatnot, okay? That's not the role she needs to play. Now, I will say, I do think that being an actress would be incredibly hard. I do think it would be incredibly hard not to create bonds like this. Well, not like the Pedro and Vanessa bond. That's its own ugly animal. But I do think that if you were for months and months and months working on a creative project, and I think that if you're a creative person and you're working with a creative person and the chemistry that would have to happen between the two of you in order to make the story work on screen, I don't even know how you'd stay married happily in situations like that. I just don't. Because you're letting people into your world and into ways that you've never done that outside of marriage. So except for marriage or acting, when have you ever been this close to another human being? You know, or a serious relationship that you've been in with somebody. But to allow somebody to come into your space, and oftentimes, you know, it's going to be physical. But even if it was never physical, even if all you're doing in the movie is playing these incredibly close friends and you're with them all day on set and you're with them off set and you're staying in the same places, I just don't know how you go through life after that and just like, you know, wash my hands of that. Like, didn't feel anything for that person. I don't know. Maybe it's just that I couldn't do it. I couldn't be an actress. I don't think my husband would love that. And I wouldn't love that for him. I wouldn't want to see my husband go from film to film to film, having all these intimate relationships with all these women, not even if they're physical. I mean, I'm talking about the emotional element of it. And so, like, if I'm Vanessa Kirby's husband and I'm watching her emotionally take care of this guy, I'm more offended by that than if she had just made out with him. To me, being there for someone emotionally, way more offensive. Way more offensive. Ladies, am I right? Would you want to see your partner on screen constantly being taken care of by another woman? No. And if you are Vanessa Kirby's husband, men, rise up. Do you want to see your wife taking care of another man emotionally? I mean, this whole thing is so much worse to me than Scarlett Johansson kissing that guy, even if he was straight. Because that's a really weird moment. But it's so weird and it's so worthy of commenting. Everyone's called it out and been like, that was a weird thing to do. But Pedro's been allowed to get away with this for a really long time, touching other women and saying it's because of his anxiety. And what I'm saying to you right now is, that is worse, because it's going on and on and on, and somebody's being there for you emotionally. If somebody's going to be there for you emotionally, when are they going to show up for you physically and sexually? Perhaps he already has, because who's that baby, right? Okay, I think we've dragged Pedro long enough, but I think that it needed to be done. Somebody else who was in the news, and everyone was talking about it in viral videos going around everywhere, was Jennifer Lopez. Okay. Jennifer Lopez decided that on her ratty little tour, where she displays some of the worst vocals I've ever heard, she was going to writhe and gyrate all over the stage with a bunch of men in their 30s. And she was going to simulate all kinds of sex positions. Now, people have been showing this footage all over the place. I'm not going to do that. I just don't even want to. It's just inappropriate. You know, if you want to go see it, you've seen it. Even if you didn't want to, I didn't want to see it. It was splashing in front of my eyes all over the place. I'm not going to also subject you to that. Because it's gross. It's gross that at this age, she's 55 years old. And, you know, I heard Meghan Kelly talking about this, and she's like, at 55 years old, you're not a sex object anymore, and you need to stop trying to be the sex bot, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
I can say this because I'll be 55 in November. We're not sex symbols. We could look great for our age. We could rock a bikini in the right setting. That's terrific. Good for us. But asking the American public to look at you and be like, I want to have sex when I look at her. That ship has sailed. I'm sorry. It's sailed with menopause.
I don't agree with the fact that at a certain age, people just look at you and they don't want you anymore. I'm like, have you seen Jennifer Lopez? She's like incredibly attractive. And also Meghan Kelly, so are you. So I don't know why you're denigrating women in their 50s, because y'all all look great, okay? It's not an issue of do people want to sleep with me or not. That's not even on the table. I thought that was like the worst commentary of all time. What is that? I don't think there's any guy out there who's going to look at Jennifer Lopez and be like, yuck. Okay? I don't care that she's 55 years old. She doesn't look like it. You know, so, I mean, what kind of... That's not the problem here. The problem is, why are you putting on a porn show for everybody? That's the problem. Doesn't matter what your age is. Why am I looking... I don't want to see 25-year-old girl do that. You want to do that? Get an OnlyFans page. Do you in your degenerate ways. But not in my face. I don't want to see it. Okay. But on the heels of such ridiculousness... What should InStyle magazine dish up for us but some of their regular trash? Okay, so they had interviewed Jennifer Lopez. And I thought this was the richest interview I'd ever seen. InStyle magazine's takes are always 100% trash, but I have to say I rely on them heavily for this show because they don't even realize that what they're doing is just absolute hot, steaming garbage juice. Because they're always putting forth articles, photo shoots, fashion, and it's always the worst take in the world. But they're so proud of it. Okay, so here's a great example. They had interviewed Jennifer Lopez. They had asked her for 5 of her most important takes on life and how to just be killing it at 55. Are they trolling her? If it was anybody but InStyle magazine who can't get anything right, I would think they were. Of all the people to ask, how do you get to the age you are and be so successful? It wouldn't be Jennifer Lopez we're asking. Okay, she is the epitome of a mess. Now, she might have dressed that mess up. She might be looking like a younger mess than she is, but she's a mess. Okay? And I don't think we need to ask her for life advice, but the interview they did, and we juxtapose it against what the reality is, I mean, comedy gold. Comedy gold, okay? She says in this interview that age is just a number and that you should go out and do whatever you want.
Who says you can't start learning how to play the piano at 50? You can. You're here until you're dead. So might as well do shit. Do as much as you can.
So is that why we were doing this? Is that why this was happening? Because, you just got to do as much as you can as soon as you can do it. Jennifer Lopez. Age may just be a number, but it's also what we're hoping is an indication of your wisdom and your maturing. At 55, I would hope that this isn't where we had found ourselves. Okay? I know that you're living off the fumes of everyone loving your big butt. Okay? But we never wanted to see this. Okay? The only person who I think would love to see this is maybe Joe Rogan, who can't stop talking about you. He wants to see this.
Yeah, she's like 51. She's still hot as the sun. It's crazy.
But there is no world in which I am attracted to an ass that big.
Wow.
That's just not my style.
I'm on the other team. I like it.
Oh, really?
I like it.
Yeah, well, you fit in more with good for you, Joe. You fit in with the kids today and your big ass loving friends.
Yeah,
but
know,
fat is fat.
All right. Well, then she says that you don't need to be afraid to ask for help.
I am open and receptive to all the goodness and abundance the universe has to offer. I learned all this from Louise Hay. You should read some of her books.
God have mercy. Okay. This is a woman who wrote some of the sorriest mantras and felt that if you just said them over yourself often enough, you could essentially become blind to your condition and then live in a world of delusion in which you were happy. Meanwhile, your house is burning down around you. Here are some of her general mantras. All is well in my world. Is it, J-Lo? Was it well in your world when you got, your fourth, fifth divorce? Is that well in your world? Okay. I am happy, healthy, whole, and complete. Really? Okay, but what about these healing mantras? Okay, she's got healing mantras because if you're sick, you could also talk yourself into wellness, okay? What about I am pain-free and totally in sync with life? You can get up. You just need to think in your mind that you're in sync with life. What is really happening right now is that you just haven't told yourself you're pain-free. Get there already. And my favorite, I listen with love to my body's message.
I need the toilet! I need the toilet! Oh, God, I need the toilet!
No. No, Megan. No! No!
Look away!
Megan, no!
Look away!
Finally, if you want to be rich, there's also mantras for that. You just tell yourself I'm a magnet for abundance and then go check your bank account. Also, prosperity flows effortlessly into my life. That's another one. So, get on it. If you're poor, it's because you just didn't say the right mantra, all right? And that's what J-Lo wants you to know. Courtesy of Louise Hay. She also wants us to know in this video that she made for InStyle that you just don't need to apologize for wanting it all. You need to have the life. Any man that goes out there and gets it all, what is stopping you, babe? She lets us know that you should choose one thing in your life that you can fix and then focus on that thing and everything else is just going to fall into place.
Look at your whole life. Choose one thing. Pick one thing that you know you can handle, that you can fix, whether it's work or relationship or this or that or whatever, and just go, okay, I'm gonna handle this part first. And when I handle that, everything else is gonna fall into place.
So she's got so many things she needs to work on. I mean, what does she choose? Maybe could she focus on learning how to sing? Maybe she could focus on fixing those vocals. What about her relationships with others? What about her desperate need for attention? What about, can she fix her need to take pictures of her ass when she's on yachts? If she fixed that, would she then be able to sing and get a man to stay with her? I mean, what is she talking about? You just have to fix one thing in your life and then everything falls into place. I mean, a bigger mess, as I said, does not exist. Okay? What is of all the people in the world to tell me that if I want my life to be beautiful, all I have to do is just find that one little thing to tweak and then everything just comes into place. Are you crazy? You can't sing, you can't keep a man, and you're so addicted to media attention that it has spoiled your entire life. But you're on to tell me that all I need to do is just tweak that one little thing. Keep tweaking, friend, because I don't think you found that one thing yet. That is just a little wonky. Okay, finally, she says that you need to take care of yourself and you need to check in with yourself, okay? You need to keep asking yourself, keep going back to yourself and asking, am I happy? She needed to ask herself that a little less because she talked herself out of every relationship she was in, okay? There's too much asking, am I happy? Do I need to move on? Ask yourself that a little less, Jennifer. I mean, everyone's wanting to talk about that gyrating porn video, but I'm just like, okay, yeah, but also the delusion reigns supreme in this woman's life. I mean, here's the thing. The reason that video was so crazy is because it was so delusional. We don't want to see this. You look great for your age. That's not the problem. We're not calling you disgusting. We're saying what you're doing is disgusting. You and your orgy on stage, like you literally just showed us just crazy town. Crazy town, okay? All your positions and all of your licking and up in people's faces and them up, down, and it's just like, what? Who coordinated that? You had to practice that. That's crazy. But it's all because you live in a world of delusion in which you've told yourself some kind of mantra that this is something people want. We don't. And I think to hyper-focus on that, no, what we need to focus on is just her general delusion. That crazy video is led by the fact that she lives a life of delusion. Hint style just never lets us down, do they? They just never let us down. Okay. Something that I saw this week that it really was hilarious to me. First of all, I think Tyler Perry is a great big clown. Okay? He's a great big clown with his little lips. And I saw this week that he was trying to play tough guy. He had fired his aunt who was working for him. And then apparently had let go a bunch of family members who were just always coming to him with their hands out. And his big refrain to them was, I'm not welfare. I'm not welfare. Well, do Harry and Meghan know that? I mean, the plane, the house, the security. When you let them come into this country by use of your plane and gave them a place to shelter their pitiful little heads, did you not let them know that you are not welfare? So are you just welfare for the people like Harry and Meghan who are looking for a handout and then I'll scratch your back, maybe you'll scratch mine? I mean, I feel like he is welfare as long as he can get something out of you. But then as soon as you kind of like become annoying to him, then he tries to cut you off. Harry and Meghan, of course, no longer live at his house. They have their own place. And I don't know that they're flying around in his jet anymore. I don't know. But for him to try to play tough guy and be like, I'm not welfare. The hell you aren't. You are if it's advantageous to you, you think. And then you found out that Harry and Meghan have nothing to give you. So then you probably pulled back the reins a good bit. But when they were staying at your house, they required that you build a whole new fence all around your property because they thought that there was a photographer that might have gotten a picture of them at one point when they were uncomfortable with that. So you had to have this huge, ugly fence put up on your property just, because they were upset. All the staff at the house said that they were horrific people, but you were willing to be their welfare. So is it just like your poor relations that you are annoyed because you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, but they didn't? And so it like really pisses you off that they're coming with their hands out. But if one of them were to be super successful and then said, hey man, I need a place to stay, would you really decide that you weren't welfare then? Tyler Perry just can't stand. I mean, the stuff he's putting out is beneath the Three Stooges.
Let me see it.
But he thinks of himself as like this artist, this person who has like a searing vision, and he's going to give it to you with like a little dose of humor, but like ultimately everything he's saying is just gold. Like, Tyler Perry, please. I can't stand what a hypocrite he is. I can't stand who he aligns himself with, his little Oprah Winfrey friendships and, his machinations and manipulations in Hollywood trying to get his foot in. And I mean, I just don't know that there's that many people who can even stand him because he's just so fraudulent and fake. And then all of the day long trying to act like he's just like this God-fearing, because I grew up in the South, where we go to church and we love the Lord. But I'm like, what are you talking about, Because you would say anything you need to say to manipulate any group of people. And you only have that mantra because you want the African-American community to keep coming to your movies if they think that you are, a nice guy. Meanwhile, as we've covered on this show, you're over there harassing your male employees and, other coworkers because you want a little something on the side. You're on the down low. That's what sickens me. Don't talk about God out of one side of your mouth, but then you're secretly harassing people for homosexual relationships on the other side. Just don't even do it. What are you? I can't stand him. But see, that goes right along with I'm not welfare, but secretly I am welfare. I mean, is there anything that you say that's true? You're just a double agent everywhere you go. Speaking of Harry and Meghan, they have had a terrible week, okay? We already know that they are terrible and lame. That doesn't come as any surprise to us. This is the thing that had bothered me for a while. My fear was that they were going to eventually gain enough momentum that they would find themselves sitting, nice and pretty. Meghan, with her Netflix show, with her podcast, with her lifestyle brand, as she says, with all of her liquid jams and her dried flowers and her tropical rosé, I figured that maybe that she'd found herself a little niche. Maybe she was on the rise. But slowly, piece by piece, things are beginning to be dismantled. At this point, she has dropped the podcast, as we've covered before, because, as she says, she just doesn't want to be spread too thin. The only thing she wants spread thin is jam. It's her jam on bread. Which, of course, never made any sense to any of us. But that was her, little catchy phrase. The only thing I want spread thin is my jam. She'd practice that one in front of the mirror before she actually said it. Thought she was so clever. But the podcast is no more. Just like her other podcast, the Archetypes podcast, is no more. So that little piece fell out. And then, once again, she's decided to sell all of her jams and biscuits. And there wasn't enough for anybody. So now people are just they're super sick of that. And she was having to give discounts and, promise, food and stuff to other people because, oh my gosh, you ordered and you didn't get it. And, all this. Right. So that's not going well for her. Little scheme to not stock enough so that she could look like she sold out. People are getting tired of that. Even though she spoke about it and was saying, I don't want people to be fatigued by interacting with my stuff. I'm going to make sure I stock enough this time. But we all knew she wouldn't because she loved the feeling of being able to tell people that she sold out in 45 minutes. Okay. So that wasn't going well for her. But she continued to talk about her partner with her lifestyle brand. And of course, her partner was Netflix. They had made the show with Love Meghan. And then her little lifestyle brand, As Ever, which was connected to that, was sort of like this little thing that was working hand in hand. But Netflix is we're done. Because Meghan's show, this show that she acted like no one could get enough of, and quite frankly, everyone was talking about, had hit at the 383rd spot on the Netflix ranking. I didn't even know there were that many shows on Netflix. What is the bottom number? 390? I mean, I can't imagine that there's that many shows. But of all of them, to go all the way down that far on the list, I mean, of course she's no longer a contender for them to be paying out $100,000 deals to. They did not deliver, by any stretch of the imagination, on the Harry and Meghan documentary, which is the only reason that Netflix retained them in the first place, because they thought they were going to get some dirt. How could they even think that after that stupid Oprah interview?
Did you make Kate cry?
No.
So where did that come from?
Maybe they thought that they would have the interviewers who were going to really get in there and get Meghan and Harry to open up. But it was so lame and they had so little footage and they got nothing. They had to stuff the documentary with multiple episodes full of fluff and stupidity because there just wasn't enough for Harry and Meghan to talk about. We got so many moments of talking to other people about things like slavery and colonialism and all kinds of garbage that really didn't pertain to the story whatsoever. They wanted it to. They wanted you to think there was a connection. They worked so hard for you to think that there was a connection. But because Harry and Meghan never actually experienced any kind of racism, there really was no context for that conversation, especially when Harry comes out and undermines it and says, that thing we said about, Meghan said, someone said something racist, that never happened. And, honestly, you all say Meghan said something, but we never said anything like that. It's just one of those things people are completely misinterpreting everything we do. They just want to hate us so much. They put words in our mouth, but we never said that there was anything racist that had ever happened to us. Never, ever. We haven't experienced racism with my family, so I don't really know what you're talking about. But that's a really problematic stance for Harry to take now, because Netflix had committed so much of the documentary to the racism that is underpinning the entire royal family, so they say. So it was a junk documentary. There was nothing to talk about. Nothing was revealed. And there was a little bit of complaining on Harry and Meghan's part. And, that ridiculous bow that she looked dumb and Harry looked horrified. And, that was their biggest moment. So that fell flat. Then Meghan makes a show that was, somebody's Pinterest board and nothing more. And it was just her with her dumb little ideas. We didn't learn any good recipes. We saw 150,000 different ways to arrange fruit and veg, but there was nothing on that show that was super helpful about how to live this bountiful life that she claims you can live. And everything that she says was so dumb and pathetic and cliche. She was awkward. The show was awkward. She had to develop a relationship with the director because she had no presence on screen. So she had to talk to somebody. Everything about that was pathetic. Now, there will be another season because they've already filmed it, but it's not because they've made new content with Meghan. So that piece has fallen out. And without Netflix, I don't know how much longer she can have her As Ever brand continue to go on, because As Ever was really finger locked with that show. That show is where she promoted her stupid flour sprinkles, her dumb teas, her little silly biscuits and crepes. That's where she showed you why you needed these products. It was all just advertising for her As Ever brand. As we know, branding ain't the thing over at As Ever. They don't know what they're doing. Okay, we talked about that last week, about the dumb packaging and the labels on her wine bottles. I mean, that is some trash. Nobody would choose that bottle of wine based completely on just how they look. Because you don't know what wine tastes like. Every wine is so different. If you get a rosé, it doesn't mean it's going to taste like the last rosé you had. So how are you supposed to know? And for those of us who are ignorant beyond belief when it comes to wine, me, I always choose based on which of these bottles, if they're basically in the same price range, which of these bottles is more appealing to me visually. I guess I'll go with that one. Who would pick the As Ever brand? Who? The crooked lettering, the enormous amount of white space, the dullness of it, it just looks like that's going to be a bad experience, right? So advertising, packaging, it's not her deal. Netflix was how she was going to sell her goods, and now they don't want it. So what's she going to do? Who's going to market this junk? Not her and her Instagram page, right? She can't even manage to pick an apricot the right way off of a ripe tree. Okay, so she's not the one. So her brand's just going to crumble. The only thing they ever had any success with is Harry's book Spare. And even that, the ghostwriter fell out. 3/4 of the way through the work was like, I can't do it. And you can tell the difference in the book. And we're all pretty sure Meghan took up the last quarter of that, okay? The book's ridiculous, as we've talked about a lot on this channel. But Harry's going to have to write another book, or she's going to have to write another book. And honestly, that's the only thing I can imagine that they would have any hope in elevating and boosting themselves out of this depression they're finding themselves in. No more podcasts. They can't podcast. They don't know how. It sucks every time they try. No more Netflix. And I do not understand how she's going to keep her junky little business going. It's not selling anything anybody wants. It literally isn't. I mean, just imagine if you'd never heard of As Ever and you find yourself on that page and you're scrolling and you're like trying to find something to buy. What would you buy? What? The junky old teas? The lame flavors? The dry biscuits? The watery jam? The honey that's never stocked? I mean, what? What would you buy? You wouldn't want any of that junk. Not one of you. Not one of you would be like, oh, wow, this looks really intriguing. What is this? I couldn't find this anywhere. The flour sprinkles? I mean, why would nobody wants any of that junk. Not one person wants it. So I just don't understand, unless they write another book, unless Meghan decides to write a book. And by the way, if Meghan wrote a book, we'd be all up on that business. They're going to have to write another book. But the thing is that Harry is right now trying to build relationships back with his dad. You guys know a couple weeks ago, the palace aides and Harry's people had a meeting of the minds. I don't know how serious they were about it. I don't know if it was like, let's meet to talk about how Harry can get back in the good graces of his father. I don't know if it was a meeting in which his father's like, you know what, my health isn't the best, and I'd really like not to feel like things are a mess with my family. I don't know if it was a thing of like, hey, you don't seem to know the King's Diary, and sometimes you seem to do things that are at odds with what we're trying to do. Let's sync our calendars a little bit better so we're not taking away from each other. I don't know what the meeting was. I don't think there's anybody ready to see that reconciliation except for maybe the very people in the party. except for maybe King Charles wanting to fix his relationship with his son, just because, look, none of us know how long we have. And particularly when you're in poor health, you would want to make sure you dotted your I's and crossed your T's. I mean, you would. I would. And I do think it's kind of jacked up that there's so many people being like, he shouldn't forgive. That's his prerogative. You're not looking at limited days, okay? And if you were, you might say, I want to make sure that things are right with my son, just because I need to know that I made every effort. So we don't know what that meeting was about. What we do know, though, is that I don't think Harry's in a position to want to write another book, because he himself says the things I said in that book are going to be very hard for my family to get over. We know it, Harry. Our question is, how come you are only now just coming to the conclusion that that might have been a mistake? He had just so many voices in his ear when he wrote that book that he thought he could get away with it. All right. But now he's seemingly regretful of having gone after some of the family members in such an aggressive and strange way. The only person left to write a book is Meghan, and she can't be honest enough to write a book. What is she going to say? She can't say anything truthful. If she had, they wouldn't be in this situation in the first place, because her podcast would have been a lot more interesting, and her Netflix show would have been a lot more interesting, and the documentary would have been a lot more interesting. The problem with her is she continues to think that she just needs to play her cards close to the chest, and people are going to still be interested. We were hardly interested in the beginning, okay? And now that you won't tell us a damn thing, why in the world am I still showing up? Okay? There's nothing real about her. Harry's over there floundering all over the place. He doesn't know which way to turn. She's over there making poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, like she's only got half a brain. I mean, I don't understand how these two are going to manage. And without Netflix, what are they going to do? Also, they also lost Spotify a while back. You know what I mean? It's like there's nobody who wants to do business with them. They can't keep staff. They can't keep their business relationships. They clearly have no idea what they're doing in the realm of charity. The Archwell Foundation is just a laughingstock. So I don't know what they think that they're going to do with their time. They will write another book. We will see another book. It's not like an if question. It's not like, will they? I don't know. If this happens, maybe it's not. They will write another book. I just don't know which one of them will do it. I mean, even at a certain point, they were trying to make a movie. But you guys, even that movie, like at this point, they were saying that they wanted to make a movie called Meet Me at the Lake, which I think is based off of a book. No director, no cast. Still talking about how they want to make this movie. But how? No one will work with you. They just have such a pathetic reputation that at this point, the only thing Harry really can do is crawl back on his hands and knees like the prodigal son and just hope his dad will take him in. You know, I mean, he's literally been over there eating husks with the pigs. And, you know, maybe he's come to himself. Maybe he's come to his senses. Maybe he's already deciding what speeches he's going to make. And he can only hope that his father will be like the dad in the story, who will see his son coming from a far way off and already begin to prepare the fatted calf. But I don't know if that'll be the case. All I know is he better not bring one of the pigs back with him, because I can tell you right now, no one's opening their arms to Meghan. Okay, let's talk about a strange thing that has happened this week, and that is the celebrity deaths. What I'm talking about, is there a plague? Did the angel of death just ride over Hollywood? What is happening? Now, granted, most of the people who passed away were older, but not all of them. This week, we lost Malcolm Jamal Warner. You'll recall he's the actor who played Theo in The Cosby Show. I love The Cosby Show. And I still watch The Cosby Show, and I don't care what anybody says. I know that guy was a sicko, but you know what? In the show, he was a good dad, and I'm going to just continue to enjoy that version. Malcolm Jamal was in Costa Rica with his family, and they had gone swimming, and there was a riptide. He was out there with his 8-year-old daughter. The lifeguards came out, saved his daughter, and were able to bring her back to shore. But by the time they got Malcolm Jamal, he was already unconscious. And they spent 45 minutes giving him CPR, but they were not able to restore him, obviously. And so he passed away. And it's really, really sad. He's only 54. He was very young. The sad thing is that there was a lot of warnings on the beach that day about riptides. There was red flags out. The water was extremely choppy. And so, I mean, we all have a tendency to think that, you know, we're not going to get hurt. I can get in a situation that, yeah, there's dangers, there's signals, whatever. We're just going to go out, have fun. I know what to do if I find myself in a riptide. I'm supposed to swim parallel to the shore and all this, you know. So I can see how a guy might get into the situation and think, I'll be fine. It's not going to hurt me. I know what to do, you know, and I'm not going to go so far out that the riptide gets me or whatever. You know, you could tell yourself a whole lot of things. But the ocean's a crazy, scary place in a lot of ways, you know, and it's just, what a sad thing. And also so sad that his 8-year-old daughter was witness to that, you know, super, super huge tragedy. Now, a more foreseeable death was Ozzy Osbourne. You know, he had just recently, like within the last few days, done his sort of farewell concert. I mean, he wasn't well. He was sitting down throughout most of it. Ozzy hasn't been well for a really long time, you know, just with the drugs and everything like this. I mean, quite frankly, at the age of 76, to pass on and having been so unwell, quite frankly, for so long, it wasn't that huge of a shock to most of us. At a separate date, I got to do a longer video on Ozzy Osbourne. Because that guy and the relationship that he had with his wife and his kids and all, weird and wild. And we were always getting a caricature of these people. Always. We always got this sort of like fun-loving but also satanic family. And, you know, Sharon was always like, what are you talking about? I'm not a Satanist and all this. But it's like, well, but you're always wearing those pentagrams and your husband has said he loves Satan. So it's hard to know. But there was this very weird thing, and I'm going to do some more research on it because I really do want to do a video about this. I think that this weird family, who was people in their family who now no longer look like they used to at all. So like there's something weird going on. They had developed this relationship with this young musician named Youngblood. And then there was this weird relationship with Ozzy specifically. And it really feels to me, and I will do more research on this so we can talk about it more at length. It feels to me that the family had done this strange ritual in which they tried to pass the energy from Ozzy Osbourne into Youngblood so that he could take up whatever entity had been in Ozzy and carry it on, knowing that Ozzy was about to die. I've done a little bit of research, but not enough to talk to you guys about it at length. I will, because I actually want to do a whole series on the weirdness in Hollywood that has to do with that kind of stuff. And I've talked about wanting to do that for a while, but maybe after we get done with the book we're reading, I'll have more time to devote to the research of that topic. These people were weird, and they're not the fun-loving little caricature of the wacky, you know, Addams Family vibes. You know, we're wacky, but we're fun. We're fun-loving and normal, but also incredibly creepy. Those people are crazy, and we need to talk about it. But also this week we lost Hulk Hogan and then also Chuck Mangione. I mean, it was just like, what is happening? And if celebrities die in threes, it looks like we got 2 more deaths coming since Chuck Mangione started another round of this, right? So I'm a little bit concerned about that. But it was a weird week. It just felt like every day, every time I refreshed my Instagram, I was like, so-and-so passed away, so-and-so passed away, so-and-so passed away. It's like, what? Again, some of those deaths weren't super surprising, but then some of them were, you know. Also this week we learned that Anne Burrell, her death has officially been ruled a suicide, and so that's really sad. I think most people had assumed at this point, but it hadn't been an official ruling, so it's really sad that she felt, you know, that life had gotten to be so unbearable that was her only recourse. It's really, really sad. My final story today is very small, very minor, but I just was like, Gwyneth Paltrow, could you just quit it already? Like, you've got to stop. Gwyneth Paltrow, there's a new biography out about her, and in this book, she was really upset when Brad Pitt started dating and then married Jennifer Aniston. And in her words, it just showed that Brad had, quote, terrible taste. Okay. But then, Gwyneth, were you the right taste? I know your Goop approved and all, but are you the one that he should have chosen? Is that what you're saying to me? Because what makes you so much better than Jennifer Aniston? I don't understand. I mean, she's an unbearable person. She's an unbearable, thinks she's so much better than everybody else kind of person. She's lived her life doing crazy things like calling a divorce a conscious uncoupling. I mean, that person is unbearable. This is a person who has openly said that her greatest fear is obesity. What are you talking about? You are in control of whether you're obese or not. So I guess what you're saying is you're very afraid of fat people? I mean, what are you even doing when your mouth is moving, Gwyneth Paltrow? I mean, everything she says in it is an insane statement. This is a person whose entire brand Goop has never really made any money, but she continues to try to let us believe and to think that her vagina-smelling candles are something that you ought to want. I need to understand why she thinks she was a better choice than Jennifer Aniston. Now, granted, I've learned some stuff about Jennifer Aniston that doesn't sit too well with me, and I will include that in my video about what in the world's going on with Hollywood. I am going to do that video. There's just a lot of sickness going on, a lot of out in the open sickness. And what's interesting is I hadn't heard Jennifer Aniston's name tied into that until very recently. And it turns out she might be queen among them of disgustingness. So maybe that's what Gwyneth Paltrow's talking about. Maybe Gwyneth Paltrow knows something we don't know, okay? Probably she does. But just on the surface level, pretending we don't know about the sickness in Hollywood. If I'm just supposed to look at Jennifer Aniston versus Gwyneth Paltrow, I can understand why Brad was like, I need to go with somebody who's just a little bit more normal. I need to go with somebody who is not afraid of life and who isn't going to freak out when they see a fat person. How did Gwyneth Paltrow not fall out when she was in that movie, Shallow Hal, and had to wear a fat suit? Did she have a panic attack every day having to pretend she was fat? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I've said this on a number of other videos, but I'll say it on here as well. I know some of you already know this and you're like, boy, this is the third time she's telling us. But I used to be a teacher and I'm used to telling people things more than once. I would like you all to know that I will not be on the channel this coming week. I'm going on vacation with my family. But we're going to Birmingham for 2 weeks. So the following week I will be working. But the week when we're at the beach, I unplug and I just enjoy the fam. So I won't be here next week, but I will see you on the following week. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye.